Good evening, everybody.
Hey.
What's that been? A comedy gig? Hope you're not expecting any jokes. So it's an absolute pleasure to be the first presenter up this evening and to present to you all on building better businesses with employee ideas. So before we kick off, does anyone know who this wisely old gentleman is? Anybody? Seems familiar? No, don't worry, it would be some pretty niche knowledge if you did know who he is, but this gentleman here is Art Fry. Now, Art Fry, in 1976, was trying to invent some glue, and he did a terrible job of it. He invented a glue that wasn't very sticky at all. And he had no use for this invention. So he was talking to a colleague, and his colleague said, "Hey, I've got a bookmark that keeps falling out of my book. How about we use your glue for that?" And so they worked on this idea, and they borrowed some yellow paper from the R&D department next door, and they invented a product that now makes 3M $1 billion a year. Has anyone an idea what that product might be? Yellow, sticky? Post-it note, exactly, post-it note. So I really like this story because it's a really great example of how much impact employee ideas can have. And it's going to lead really nicely into what we're talking about this evening. And that is that employee ideas can have a material impact on the bottom line of every company represented in this room. So where has this all come from? Well, I'm from Sideway 6, and Sideway 6 have been going for 6 years now. And we have been fortunate enough to work with some of the biggest and best companies and to collect over 500,000 employee ideas. So we've picked up some insight along the way, which I'll be sharing with you this evening. We're going to be looking at why ideas are important, firstly. I'm going to give you an insight into employee ideas in construction. Then a couple of inspiring stories, a little bit on how we go from here, and then I guess Q&A will be after. Great. So let's kick off. So why are ideas so important? What is the fuss about? Well, every single company started with an idea. And I think this is a really powerful message that products can be launched that disrupt markets that come from employees within the business. But I want to address the elephant in the room. Employee ideas is nothing new. You may have seen it before. You may even have an employee ideas scheme where you work. So why wasn't there a Happy Meal launched, or Gmail, or a Sony PlayStation? It's because employee ideas can be a little bit tricky. If you don't have the right tools, if you don't follow the right process, really concerted, great efforts can fall flat. That's a massive shame, because clearly employee ideas can have a really big impact on businesses and on markets. So we actually did some research on this, and we surveyed over 1,000 employees around the world, 16 different verticals, global companies, from small all the way up to large, and the results are pretty interesting. So first up, if you take away only one thing from this evening, it's this: 4 out of 5 employees have ideas to improve the business they work for. So if you look in this room, that's about you guys, about there. I'm sure you guys are all free-thinking innovators as well, don't worry about it. But that's a lot of ideas. And when you extrapolate that out to large businesses of 10, 20, 100,000 employees, that's a lot of ideas that are happening within businesses. And unfortunately, a third of employees feel like they're ignored. A third. That's terrible. Feel like they're totally ignored by their employer. And to compound this issue even further, 1 in 5 employees never share their idea. They're just too afraid. The culture around them doesn't inspire them to do it. This is not a great position to be in. But there is some good news. Construction ranked 3rd when it came to listening to employees. It's a really great position to be in, because clearly the construction industry cares what their employees think and wants to listen to their ideas. Unfortunately though, construction was ranked 6th when it comes to implementing ideas. So, we're listening, we want your ideas, let's have them, but now we've got them, we're not going to do anything about it. this is not a particularly great position to be in, and obviously an area that can be improved upon. So why listen? Why listen and why implement employee ideas? Obviously, over the last 6 years, we've come to realise that actually it's a win-win for both businesses and employees. For the business, you get improved productivity, accelerated innovation with more ideas. Customers are happier, customers are feeding into the front line's feeding back into the business, and from there the business can improve. And equally, employees feel like they're being listened to, they're more engaged, they're doing better work, they are more productive, and they stay longer, reducing staff turnover. So it really is a win-win, and I'd like to bring that win-win situation to life. So we could look at any of these case studies really. We could look at Centrica, who had a single employee idea that saved them £6 million a year. We could look at AstraZeneca, who built their 2025 strategy off 20,000 employee ideas. Or you could look at Diageo, who improved their net promoter score by 12% just by listening to employee ideas. But we are going to look at Balfour Beatty. Doesn't get more construction than Balfour Beatty. We have been working with Balfour for about 3 years now, and we're actually really, really proud of the work that we've been doing with them. Balfour Beatty have a campaign called My Contribution, and they run this on Yammer with Side by Six. And essentially, they wanted to put innovation and employee ideas at the core, at the DNA of what they do. So, for Balfour Beatty, they are a great example of engaging workers across the whole spectrum of the workforce. They have people on site sharing ideas. They have the CEO, Leo Quinn, sharing ideas. It's everyone in the business, and that's a huge amount of engagement brought into Balfour Beatty. And equally, that win-win is that from the ideas that have been shared, the money that's been saved is now £4 million a year just from employee ideas. And Balfour Beatty have done a really, really great job of this, and actually they're up for a employee engagement award tomorrow night, so fingers crossed for them. But it's a really, really great example. Next up, Rio Tinto. So Rio Tinto, not a construction company, but definitely within the supply chain of construction. For those of you who don't know Rio Tinto, they are the world's largest metals and mining company. And for Rio Tinto, they obviously have some pretty dangerous working environments. So they wanted to launch a campaign to make the working environment a lot safer. So they have, using Workplace by Facebook, collected ideas to reduce risk on site. And the ideas that have been shared are now starting to save lives at Rio Tinto, which is just absolutely crazy. Equally again, that win-win is that process improvement has been improved to the tune of $1.8 million a year as a result of the ideas shared. Pretty powerful story. So let's have a little look at how we go from here. So you might be already doing employee ideas. You may not have done it before, but these themes and these sort of steps are true across any company, whether you're doing ideation with 40 people or 40,000 people. These steps are practical and can be used sort of anywhere really. So let's start with why. Any Simon Sinek fans in the room? Yeah, Rob? So you'll know why starting with why is so important. But here, starting with why really is fundamental. So when you start this, you really want to have a clear understanding of why do we want to listen to employee ideas. If you get that right, everything else will fall into place. So really frame the problem, understand why you want to do this, and think about the problem that you want to solve. And that will enable you to set some really clear goals. So for example, what does a good idea look like to your company? If you want to improve site safety, like Rio Tinto, it's no good collecting ideas on how to improve the customer experience because that will be unaligned. So you want to set yourself some clear goals and some measurable metrics to really define what success looks like with this campaign. Next, how? How are you going to collect the ideas? So important thing here is to leverage the communities you already have. So for us, we integrate with tools that employees are already using, they already like, they already know. And this is because you want to go to where your employees are. If you have a community somewhere, you don't want to push them elsewhere to share their ideas. It doesn't make any sense. You lose that adoption and you lose all those great ideas. So think about how you're going to get to the communities that you want to. And equally, how will you reach the right employees? So if you want to engage frontline workers, those on sites, it's probably going to be a different engagement style than if you want to engage with office workers or executives. So you want to think about how you reach that audience. Next up, what? What is the plan? So you need a decent plan to execute this well, but the first thing to think about here is the time frame. So are you going to do this for 5 days? Are you going to do it for 5 months? Are you going to do it for 5 years? You really want to have this set out early so you can understand closely the resource that you're going to need to assign to the project. And that leads on very much to what will this resource do? So what is the process for picking a good idea? What happens to the idea once it's been chosen? How is it brought to life? And who will be the internal champions? Who's going to be that exec that really pushes that forward and gets everyone bought into it? You get that set out early and you'll have a really, really successful employee ideas campaign. So this is from our campaign lookbook. We've realised that actually employee ideas fit into 10 of these categories. Roughly, if you take all the ideas that are shared, they pretty much fit into these 10 categories. It's pretty interesting, the difference is in the types of ideas. Obviously we've seen sort of cost saving and safety, but listening leader, creating a more green environment. And if any of you want to see this in a bit more detail with sort of the outline around these types of campaigns, just come ask me after, I can give you the link to download it. But that is it from me, guys. I hope that I've left you with a better impression of how important employee ideas can be and the success that they can bring to companies. So thanks very much.